the biggest thing for me is I wanted a game that people could jump in without any sort of punishment, without feeling too much time pressure, and just play at their own pace. So that was something when I first started talking with Chris. I think we could do something like that. It would actually be a fun place to escape to instead of like a little cookie clicker on your phone when you get home. It's like, what are people trying to do when they do that? They're trying to escape their day, escape the grind, but can they do something that's actually enjoyable, not just a pattern recognition thing that's clicking off in their brain? So yeah.
SIFTER.com.au.
Hello, this is Lightmap from SIFTER, our interview show. I'm Gianni, and today we're going on a cozy little adventure with some of the cutest critters you've ever seen. Dean Ferguson and Chris Conte from 5 Live Studios in Queensland are my guests. Let's go.
Join the SIFTER community on Discord at sifter.com.au/Discord.
Cozy games have been and are still having a moment, my friends, and there is something kind of magical about avoiding the hustle and bustle of the mainstream scene while wearing a cute cardigan and having a frog as your companion. Dean and Chris, welcome to Lightmap.
Thanks for having us.
Now, Chris, I feel like we know what to expect with Cozy Caravan. Sort of seems like what it is on the box, but can you lay it out for us? What is Cozy Caravan?
It is exactly what you said, Don. It is what you see on the tin. It's a game where you're wandering around with your mate Bubba, the little frog guy, on your caravan, just experiencing the world at your own pace, crafting recipes and then taking them to markets on the weekends, meeting people along the way and spreading joy throughout the community.
Dean, can you take us all the way back to the beginning? Where did the idea of this kind of come together?
Yeah, really, really far back, I had a little idea of a game that I wanted to sort of pitch to the team. At some point, it was way in the back of my mind of like something that we could do that was about the team having fun, something that wasn't as challenging as a lot of the titles we were working on. So I'd actually sat down with a few of the team at times and sort of just picked their brains about what made them tick outside of work, what things they really enjoyed to do in work, the little quirky hobbies and stuff like that. And then just started sort of thinking of an idea and like to poor Chris's, he was like, I'm not a designer, so it was very loose. But it was really just about something that we could all have fun making, and hopefully that would then present to the players that there's joy in it and they'd see that and want to play it as well. So, yeah.
I feel like vibes are pretty important to the cozy genre. Am I wrong? Is that kind of what you had to do in your research? Get the vibes right and then build it and they will come?
I think definitely vibes. You know, that was, again, the key sort of thing was like, if people really enjoy playing this, sort of making this, I had a strong suspicion that they'd see that and want to actually play it. So,
yeah, I think when Dean first told me about the idea, we were doing what do you call them, prototypes in the team, in amongst the team, and Dean, like a bunch of other team members, were all doing different things, and Dean's idea was sitting there, and no one had jumped on it, and I was like, I didn't have an idea at the time, so I was like, oh, I'll jump on your idea and I'll help you out. It was at that point, it was like a 1-page kind of brief, and I was like, oh, I don't know whether or not this will be the game for me, but we'll start making it. And we spent like 3 days or something throwing together a really rough prototype. And then by the end of it, from that and the conversations, and then we started listening to some lo-fi music with it as well, it kind of clicked with me. And I was like, oh, actually, I think this could actually be really quite cool. So, and then we took it to the rest of the team. And, yeah,
surprisingly, they all loved it.
Yeah.
So I was shocked by it. So, yeah, it was cool.
I feel like cozy and indie are some of these big catch-all terms, but I want to know, how are you defining cozy? What are the things that make up your world, the important aspects of what makes Cozy Caravan?
I think the big one for me, obviously, there's cute and that sort of warm sort of feeling you get from looking at the visuals and everything. But the biggest thing for me is I wanted a game that people could jump in without any sort of punishment, without feeling too much time pressure, and just play at their own pace. So that was something when I first started talking with Chris. I think we could do something like that. It would actually be a fun place to escape to instead of like a little cookie clicker on your phone when you get home. It's like, what are people trying to do when they do that? They're trying to escape their day, escape the grind, but can they do something that's actually enjoyable, not just a pattern recognition thing that's clicking off in their brain? So yeah.
It's interesting. The longer I kind of go on, I kind of am really drawn to those sort of games where you can kind of just go into a nice rhythm and it doesn't ask a lot from you. It's not like a dramatic RPG or anything like that. And I'm wondering, did you kind of reach that point in your lives and the way that you were playing games? Are you looking for those things that you can just kind of repeat to find a bit of space in the day?
I play a wide breadth of games. So I'm currently also playing Helldivers quite a bit. So that's kind of the other end of the spectrum. But at the same time, I picked up Dorfromantic a little while ago. And that was, again, back on the cozy, low pressure kind of game. And I really loved sitting on that at nights when I didn't want to go in and blow up a bunch of bugs. But I like having the variety of having those fun and exciting games, and then having the times when I just need to unwind and not do anything and get into something like this.
How about you, Dean?
Yeah, I've more and more been getting into the cozy games largely from like time issues that we have. Like we work a lot and we want to get home, and I don't have time to necessarily do, a 200-hour campaign of something, even though I don't have kids. I'm like, who has no time? So it's slowly, as I've gotten older, I guess, have just found the interest more in these sort of like interesting moments and not necessarily everything blowing up and gibs everywhere. It's like I'd much rather just relax on my couch, talk to my wife while I'm doing it, and just relax more than anything.
Yeah. For me, this is also something that I wanted to do for my kids. So, my youngest daughter is really into like Animal Crossing and Ooblets and a bunch of those other games that are similar kind of vein. So when we told her about what we were doing with this, she immediately got very excited. So we've had both my girls playtesting the game, and we got both of them as characters in the game as well now, which they get very excited about. It was kind of something I really wanted to make that they're really going to be able to get into and enjoy.
Tell me a little bit more about, I guess, those characters and that including your family in part of the game, because that's really cute.
I think a lot of the early testing for me was actually getting my daughters on the days that I worked at home. I get them to just come sit on my lap, and put the controller in their hand, and go, "Try doing this." And then I watch them. And I go, "Oh, they're not getting this at all." It's like, "All right, Kyle, hang on a second, and I'll change some of the code. Go, now try it again." And they go, "Oh, I can do this now." So, like seeing them actually driving the caravan and running around were indicators for me on whether or not control schemes were working or whether or not we were going in the right direction for any of that stuff. And art-wise, these guys were immediately, anytime I showed them anything, the girls were getting all squeamy and excited about everything. So there were lots of little squeals with a number of the characters that were shown off early on.
It's actually, you hear that every time we've been watching streamers, like the minute they can see something, it's like you hear that squeal, like, "Oh my God, it's a cow. Oh my God, it's this." It's like, it's great.
Tell me a little bit about that art style, developing the look of it, because it really, to me, feels like a bit like Sylvanian Families, the game, in a way. And I love, in particular, that stepped animation that you've got going through. Tell me about the look of this game, because it's really cool.
The stepped, I'll go do first. That was something that, going back to what I was saying about checking what people want to do, Mitch, one of the directors, has always wanted to do stepped animations. It's something he just keeps like prodding us, like, "Hey, we should do a side scroll or stepped or something like this." So that was one of the things that I'd marked down straight away. I was like, okay, I think Mitch would love this if we did it stepped. And I think he's pulled it off. It looks really awesome. Our concept artist at the time, Angela, was a big fan of Sylvania Waters. So Sylvania Families, probably a fan of Sylvania Waters too. God, that's a throwback. So that obviously there's some influence there that's crept in. Obviously things like Animal Crossing. I was playing a lot of Little Gator and also A Short Hike, just I guess for the artistic vibe that set of like this really cute and adorable sort of world that was again, non-punitive and just relaxing. So, yeah, and a weird one is I have a big love of a lot of French comics, and there's a little bit of that in some of it. So,
Tell me more about that. You can't leave that one there.
I went to France years ago and found a comic book store and spent most of the money I had for my travels on comics in France. If I say any more than that, my wife will kill me.
A reasonable amount of money to spend on a holiday.
Very
reasonable. You mentioned as well, building out this style and kind of getting this sort of cute vibes, and it's there. And I'm just curious about, like, talk to me through that iteration of what these characters kind of look like, what the world kind of looked like, the rules of the visuals of this world. If you can tell me a little bit more about how that is built.
Initially, the initial sort of pitch was that we wanted to have this, I guess, toy-like in a way, but we didn't want to have it look too much like miniatures. We had actually toyed with the idea of doing sort of clay shaders and stuff like that, but that was taking it a bit too much towards that way. But ultimately, everything was like really simplified forms, really easy to digest shapes, lots of color blocking, just really trying to find a nice, simple art style that we couldn't really hide in. But at the same time, in all honesty, it's very quick for us to make. And as an indie, you want to be able to do stuff like that. So something that was really compelling, something that held the cute and we didn't overwork. One of the things is that we've not really done a lot of cute stuff. I mean, we've done Windbound, which is stylized, but Satellite Brain is probably the entire opposite side of this. So, and that was a lot of very intricate, textures. The title we were working on just before this was very detailed. So, yeah, it was a step away from that. So, finding something that was, I guess, challenging for us to do right without falling back into old habits was a big thing that I was interested in. So, yeah.
What old habits are you trying to avoid overcomplicating it? Is that what you sort of mean?
You've got a lot of things that I've got, but I can get very fastidious about things and over detailed and overworked. So this was a really good way of actually relaxing, I guess, a lot in my work as well as in the game. And then, so this, again, one of the things that we wanted to do is like find a way of freeing up that, hunched prawn tension that us artists can get when we're making art, and find the joy in it again instead of trying to just smash out lots of iterations of highly technical work.
Is that a hard thing to do if you've been making games for a long time, to kind of break that sort of pattern in your own head?
The hardest thing to do was probably just learning to relax with it a bit more. But the other good thing is with this title is that it's been very collaborative with the team. So you start doing that and someone will come over and go, hey, it doesn't need all these bells and whistles, you're going too far. And so it was a good way of being pulled out of it and actually learning where my boundaries for that stuff is.
I mean, that kind of ties into something else I wanted to ask about, which was the early access and, kind of building out in a public way, the way to do this. Why did you choose to do it that way? Is it because of part of that process you're talking about there? Get something out, make it achievable and build on it? Is that what you were thinking with an early access?
Yeah, a big part of it is going to the community, and we've got there's all the different aspects and parts of the game, and we know the things that we like and know the things that my kids like, but we want to kind of get it out there and see where people are enjoying the game the most. And we have plans and ideas for a lot more content, but we want to know where we should really steer the ship. And we'll get that. We're already starting to get that from the feedback we've got from the community.
Yeah, it's actually been great having the amount of feedback that we've been getting. We've started a Discord community and they've been really vocal and helpful and patient, which is a good thing. Early access is always hard. So, yeah, it's a nice way of actually, again, pushing that collaborative sort of vibe and us not being too tense on our ideas and getting a bit locked into it. We can move around the edges a little bit. Obviously, we have a vision and we have things that we want to do, but there is certainly room to sort of hear what the community and the people who are going to be playing it are reacting to and liking. So, yeah, it's been good, actually. It's been really fun.
I know it's only been a short time since it's actually hit early access, but I'm just curious what that sort of feedback has given you so far? Is anything surprising in what the priorities of the early players are asking for?
I mean, the initial reactions or the initial feedback that I've mostly been dealing with have been just this is broken, that's broken, can you fix these bugs? So I've been dealing a lot more with that. But yeah, it is more starting to as we've put out one or two hot fixes now, I think. And as we're kind of leaning away from the big critical bugs that we've been fixing back into more gameplay side of things, there's nothing super surprising to me. It is kind of a bit of across the board of everyone's kind of liking a bit of everything. And there's just a few leanings towards one thing or another. But yeah, I'm not super surprised with what we got.
Yeah, the most, I guess, vocal reactions are the ones that we expected of like, oh my God, and this character, and I want to do this, and can I have more outfits, and all the stuff that I would love to do when I'm playing these sorts of games. So yeah, that wasn't, again, unexpected, but probably the most vocal with all the squee and.
I find it really funny in these sort of games that quite often people like decide there's an enemy in the game as well for some reason. They're just their foil. And Courtney, who's on our team, has been playing it a little bit of the last couple of days. And she's just Jimothy, mate. I tell you what, Jimothy and Courtney are just they're just at loggerheads. I don't know how to mend this relationship, but that's something interesting to see develop these relationships with these characters that you've
If we'd had this interview during the day, we could have dragged the real Jimothy in for you to give him
the real Jimothy.
Yeah, he's actually based on one of our staff members and the interaction between him and Hershey, the staff member in his lead.
Yeah. It's just there's a bunch of little nods and jokes in there. So like I said before, that both my girls are characters in the games. We've kind of snuck ourselves in there as characters and about little stories and stuff.
Yeah.
And that Jimothy character was a bit of a joke about James being so annoying that we needed an annoying character in the game.
And now he's either loved or hated.
Yeah.
Misunderstood. A misunderstood character.
He is misunderstood.
Yeah.
He's trying so hard.
Is that going to come up in you do your appraisals at the end of the year? It's like, I'm not really happy about the fact you put all this into the game for me. Yeah, tell me a little bit about, you mentioned when you were kind of building this idea out in the very early prototypes, one of the things that really stuck out to me was it's like cute sort of cozy music with a trap beat. And I really love the sound and particularly the voices. Can you tell me about that audio sort of sound effects and everything, the audio world that you've built, because they are really distinctive.
I think I suggested the lo-fi thing at the start.
Yeah,
when we were doing the prototype, I mean, at that time the caravan was a cube and the bee was a capsule, and the player was just a capsule sliding around. And at that early stage, I think I had been just listening to some lo-fi stuff as just a way to relax. And at that point, I was like, I started listening to it while I was making the demo, and then started showing it to Dean and sending him a few YouTube links, and then basically just have that playing while playing the demo. And it immediately that was one of the moments where it clicked for me of like, this cool lo-fi, Saturday afternoon, relaxing kind of chilled atmosphere comes across, even when it's just capsules sliding around, and we were picking up, boxes and a blue box and a red box, and then putting them together to sell at a market. So yeah, very early on, I kind of suggested that to Dean, and then
and then, like you were sending me the links to YouTube videos and stuff like that, or like Spotify, and I'm like playing it and listening to it, going, yeah, okay, this fits. This is the vibe we want to go for. And so we presented that to Xander, who's working on our audio, and he loved it. And so, yeah, he's super talented and came up with what you're hearing. So, yeah.
And also the voices in particular, they're just saying hi to each other and all that sort of stuff is something that I find to be inspired, actually, because people have just been repeating each other at each other in Discord. So it's really the
cute. Amount of times we hear people saying "hoyo."
Yeah. Yeah, very, very cute. We talked a little bit about early access before and building that out in this process. But I'm curious, can you tell us a bit about what the early access roadmap kind of looks like for you? What are the things you're thinking about building into this game? I know there's basically one major area at the moment, but what does that path for the next however long look like?
So part of what we wanted to do was get the initial reaction and see what people were liking or disliking of anything, and then try and shuffle the roadmap based off of that. But from what we've seen, I don't think there's a lot that's really going to change for our plans. But so we've got the initial area that's out now. We'll be expanding on that soon. I think in about three or 4 weeks or so. And then we've got other areas that we'll be releasing as well. So we've got plans for some bigger releases of big areas of the world with a bunch of quests and crafting items and stuff that go along with that. And then I think the next thing that we were looking at doing as well was the caravan crafting. So we've kind of put in a little taste of that in the initial release, but we've got ideas for a few more things for people to craft in there. And then there's lots more outfits. You showed me a new outfit just before. Yeah. It looks really cute. Looking forward to showing my kids that one. But there's lots of outfits and stuff to swap out and
species as well. Characters
species as well. Yeah.
So but stuff like that, again, like I was saying about the art style being relatively simple, it allows us to iterate on some of those things. So even now, like talking to the community and like, what sort of creature do you like? We can sort of pivot a little bit with our schedule to sort of move things in and out. And if there's an example of something that people really love, then that is more likely than not to be able to fit in with our schedule. So it's a good way of actually being able to hear and do. It's not like, oh, you want this, and it's like, well, that's going to take 8 months for us to build, and we've scheduled for these. So it's like, it's a little bit more adaptable in that way. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about what it's like if you think back to Satellite Rain. That's how old is that exactly now? It's quite more than 10 years old, right? And and then thinking about the way that you make games now, what do you think are the things that you've learnt the most over that time?
Don't work as many hours.
Try not to work as much or as crazily. I think we've part of the big things we've done is be a lot more organized in terms of production. Like Dean's taken on a big role with that, of taking the lead on making sure that the entire team is a bit more organized. Satellite Rain was we had the Kickstarter, and then once that wrapped up, then we basically were just thrown into a room. We're like, well, we're just going to make the game now. So we just started running with it.
Very garage days.
So we kind of were just throwing things together. We didn't really have, we had a bit of an outline of where we were going, but we didn't have a rock solid kind of plan for the future. I think that's probably the biggest thing that we've changed. I mean, we've all been making games for a long time. So in terms of what we do on our own personal departments and our own personal parts of the game, that's probably evolved along the way. But I think running an entire team has been something that we were all relatively new to.
Yeah, I think the other thing is probably how much more collaborative we've been. I mean, especially in Satellite Rain, we were under the pump, so it was like 5 of us siloing off, doing our tasks. We'd get in, chat about things every now and then, and just straight back out again. So it wasn't all that like, hey, let's just sit down and chat and flesh out ideas, which we, by being able to relax a bit more and be a bit more organised with stuff, we've got the ability to do that and sit down with our staff and go, okay, what are you liking about this? What don't you like about this?
That's how we end up with characters like Jimothy in the game.
Yeah. And then try to pull the scope in because everyone's got lots of ideas.
Would you ever want to revisit any of the worlds that you've made games in before, or have they had their time and had their place?
Satellite Rain means a lot to us, and we would really love to have the opportunity to do number 2.
Satellite Rain 2 has been on the cards for me since the day we finished Satellite Rain 1. I would love to get back into Satellite Rain at some point, but yeah.
I will say that I think after doing this, our grand ideas of scope have probably tempered somewhat. There is something very nice about where we're sitting at the moment with the game development. It works well for us. Satellite Rain we know and we could do and stuff like that, but like taking on another big title like that is something that we would have to sort of like think about a lot more. I think we're enjoying the space that this is giving us and the creativity and the lack of I guess that pressure that just sits behind you when you're trying to do something overly complicated.
I feel like in the time since the world has kind of turned a bit more into a cyberpunk dystopia. So I feel like there's some pretty fertile ground there. If you wanted to ever revisit it, I'm sure people would be very excited about that.
I swear we had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, we had nothing to do with it. Did not investors in OpenAI or anything. I'm curious about, like, you know, adding those little elements of yourself, of the people you work with, the people you love into your games. Are there any things in previous games where people might be surprised to have discovered that it was a little personal touch? I know all art has a personal touch on it, but I'm just curious, you know, are you in Satellite Rain as well?
Oh, we've got lots of Easter eggs of us in the game. I don't think there's anything with as much, I guess, heart of like who we are than this one.
I enjoy in general dropping in as many little inside jokes that half of them I think only I get.
Yeah, the other half.
I enjoy just like slipping little things in here and there. So in like even in Satellite Rain, there's lots of little references to Star Wars and Transformers and all the stuff, you know, that I grew up with and enjoyed. And I've done it a bit in this. There's little. There are little lines the characters say that are from Star Wars or something. I enjoy having those little things in there that and then even now with just some of the characters and quests that I get to write, just silly characters that like I went back for one of the quests that's in the next area that we're releasing. I hadn't looked at this in a while, and I had to go back over one of the quests and rework some of the stuff because it wasn't saving properly, but reading through the dialogue again made me chuckle. It's just a silly little quest that hopefully when people find the little character that they'll get a chuckle out of it as well. But that's the bit that I kind of love the most.
Tell me about the Queensland scene at the moment. It seems like it's pumping right now. There's some really cool stuff coming out from Queensland. How does it feel to be in the state? You've now got state government support relatively recently in the grand scheme of things. What is it like to be making games in Queensland?
It's been good. I mean, there was a period where it was getting pretty rough, and then Screen Queensland and obviously Australian government have come in with a lot more support, which has been fantastic. I think it's allowed a lot of other studios to pop up and grow, which is always good to see. We're pretty tight-knit. We have been working hard, so we haven't been able to see anyone for a while. But yeah, we have meetups and stuff like that, and everyone sort of knows each other. It's quite insular. We've all worked with each other a bit, so it's good to see it getting back on track. I mean, all these things have ebbs and flows, and it's been difficult worldwide with game development at the moment. But I'm pretty positive looking out the window and seeing all the people that are coming up, and there's some amazing games too, like some amazing titles that people are doing. I'm like, how did you do that with 3 people?
Dean, Chris, it's always a pleasure to join you. Let's not make it 10 years again for the next one, please. We'll get you back on before then. Thank you so much for joining us on Lightmap. It's a pleasure. This game is a pleasure. Cozy Caravan out now in early access. Appreciate you coming on the show.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks for having us.
See you later.
SIFTER is produced by Pauletto, Fiona Bartholomaeus, Courtney Borrett, Daniel Ang, Adam Christou, and Chris Button. Mitch Lowe is our senior producer who edited this episode, and my name is Gianni Giovanni. I'm SIFTER's executive producer. Thanks to Audio Technica and Apple Australia for their support of SIFTER. And if you like the show, tell a friend, tell your mate, send them a link to this one. It's the best way that people can find out about cool indie games and cool indie podcasts. It's super easy. It's super cool. And I cannot overstate how much of a difference it makes. A personal recommendation for a podcast is the number one thing you can do to support your favorite creators. That's it. Until next time, have fun.